Have you ever thought that the person you trust the most in the world might be the one destroying you from the inside? What would you do if you found out that your best friend and soulmate shared a dark secret? Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Luca, Francesca, and Riccardo, and I assure you that nothing is as it seems. But before we get into the details of this devastating betrayal, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell. You don't want to miss the next stories, do you? Luca and Francesca had met 10 years earlier at a party with friends. They were young, full of dreams and hopes. Francesca, with her magnetic smile and natural charm, had immediately captured Luca's attention. He, pragmatic and ambitious, had managed to win her over with his determination and protective spirit. After 5 years of marriage, their life seemed perfect. A beautiful house, a stable job for Luca, and a bond that seemed destined to last forever. There was, however, a third element in this story: Riccardo. A lifelong friend of Luca, he had accompanied him in every important stage of life, from his university days to his marriage. Riccardo was the classic free spirit, always looking for new adventures, and for years he had lived as a confirmed single, even though he was welcome in Luca and Francesca's house. He was almost part of the family. And this is where the problem arises. The line between trust and betrayal, between affection and deceit, is often very thin. According to a recent study on the psychology of betrayal, one of the main reasons why people cheat with someone close, like a best friend, is the combination of pre-existing trust and ease of emotional and physical access. Riccardo and Francesca, bound by this familiarity, had become accomplices without even realizing it. The first spark between Francesca and Riccardo came completely unexpectedly. One evening, Luca called to say he would be home late from work. Francesca and Riccardo, already used to seeing each other frequently, sat on the couch with a bottle of wine. Talking to Riccardo had always been easy for Francesca. He knew how to listen to her. He understood her frustrations and her loneliness, often caused by Luca's long hours at work. That day, however, there was something different in the air. Francesca felt vulnerable, and Riccardo told her something she had never dared to confess. "You know, you are much more than Luca deserves. He doesn't appreciate you as he should." These words struck her deeply. Were they true? Those thoughts she had hidden from herself for so long? And was Riccardo sincere, with that look so different from usual? After that night, everything changed. Every meeting between Francesca and Riccardo was filled with tension. Hands that accidentally touched, smiles that were longer than they should have been, conversations that became more and more intimate. Interestingly, according to psychological studies, most emotional betrayals start just like this, with small transgressions that seem harmless, but that, over time, become impossible to ignore. The first time Francesca and Riccardo went further was in an almost banal way. One evening, Luca was out for work again, and Francesca invited Riccardo to dinner. There was a strange feeling in the air, a growing tension that neither of them could ignore. After dinner, Francesca approached to greet Riccardo, but what was supposed to be a handshake turned into a hug, and from there, a kiss. A kiss that wasn't supposed to be there, but that changed everything. Now, what many people don't know is that betrayal doesn't happen all at once. It's often an accumulation of small moments, seemingly insignificant decisions. Studies show that emotional betrayals can be even more devastating than physical ones because they involve a deep connection, an intimacy that is often denied to the official partner. Francesca and Riccardo knew they had crossed a line, but neither of them had the courage to stop. From that moment on, every opportunity was good to see each other. Francesca lied to Luca, making up banal excuses, and Riccardo did the same. They felt like they were in a bubble, in a parallel reality where their forbidden love seemed the only true thing. What about you? Have you ever been in a similar situation, or do you know someone who has? Leave a comment below. Luca, as often happens, did not suspect anything at first. He was focused on work and on an important project that kept him away from home more and more often. However, like any lie, the one between Francesca and Riccardo also began to show its cracks. One day, Luca noticed a change in his wife's behavior. She was more distracted, often lost in her thoughts, and seemed constantly anxious. Then there were the little signs. Francesca's insistently vibrating cell phone, calls she only answered when he left the room, and a growing emotional distance between them. Luca was a smart man, and he soon began to put the pieces together. But the turning point came one evening when he found a suspicious message on Francesca's phone. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Will it be the same old story?" R. Luca decided not to address the issue right away. Instead, he began to investigate on his own, trying to understand what was really going on. And so it was that, one afternoon, while he was returning home earlier than expected, he found them together. Francesca and Riccardo, on the couch, wrapped up in a kiss that left no room for interpretation. Luca stood for a few moments, motionless, watching the scene. His world seemed to be falling apart piece by piece. The wife he loved, the best friend he considered a brother. Everything was shattering before his eyes. He didn't scream, he didn't make a scene. He left without saying a word. But here comes the twist. Just when everything seemed already devastating, the full truth came out. Francesca, overcome with guilt, decided to confess everything to Luca that night. She couldn't lie anymore, and she felt she had to tell the truth, even though she knew it would destroy everything. She sat down with him, trembling, and said, "Luca, there's something I have to tell you. I'm pregnant." Luca, with a blank look, initially thought it was good news, a ray of hope in the midst of the chaos. But Francesca continued, "And the baby is Riccardo's." Luca didn't say anything for several minutes. It was as if time had stopped. Everything he thought he knew, everything he thought was stable in his life, was crumbling. Riccardo had not only betrayed his trust, but he had also fathered a child with the woman he loved more than anything. Luca's reaction was icy. Without saying a word, he stood up and left the house, leaving Francesca alone with her pain. No one knows what happened next between the three protagonists of this story, but one thing is certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Betrayal is not just a physical thing. It is a deep breach of trust, and it can destroy everything you thought was solid. What do you think about this story? Do you know someone?